There's a voice that echoes through time, a declaration that connects the divine and the mortal, a grandfather and his grandson. The Prophet Muhammad looked at his young grandson Hussein, and spoke words that would forever seal their legacy. Hussein is from me and I am from Hussein. This wasn't just about family ties, it was a prophecy. The Prophet saw in Hussein the future protector of his message. In this contrast lies the story of Karbala, a moment when the very soul of Islam was in danger, and Hussein's sacrifice became the ultimate defense of the Prophet's legacy. The Prophet entrusted his life's work to this child, turning Hussein's story from history into an eternal legend. Hussein's stand was not a political rebellion, rather it was a sacred duty to protect the spirit of his grandfather's teachings. To understand Hussein, we must first understand this deep connection, a love that went beyond generations and a spiritual bond that would decide the fate of millions. The Prophet saw the fields of Karbala in his grandson's eyes, knowing that his mission would one day depend entirely on him. Imam Hussein was born into the home of Fatima al-Zahra and Ali ibn Abi Talib, which was the center of divine revelation. Hussein and his brother Hassan were not just children, they were the living fruits of this sacred bond, growing up in an environment of unmatched spiritual purity. The Prophet's love for his grandsons was exceptional. He would stop his sermons to hug them, he would make his prayers longer for them to play, and he would say, "Oh Allah, I love them, so you love them too." This was more than just love, it was a public declaration of their spiritual importance. The Prophet called Hassan and Hussein the leaders of the youth of paradise, which was a title of inherited spiritual rank. Their upbringing instilled in them justice, truth and compassion, qualities learned at the feet of the Messenger of Allah. Hussein inherited his grandfather's courage, his mother's steadfastness, and his father's wisdom. The child who played on the Prophet's back would become the person who refused to bow down to a tyrant. Years passed and the Prophet's family had left this world. The leadership fell into the hands of Yazid, a person known for evil and unfairness, who turned spiritual guidance into a family-based kingdom. Yazid demanded loyalty from Hussein, but agreeing to it would mean saying corruption was okay and betraying the Prophet's legacy. Hussein's conscience, which grew up in the house of revelation, could not allow it. He declared, "We are the family of prophecy, and a person like me can never give loyalty to a person like him." This was not pride, but a duty, to keep justice and goodness alive. Hussein's refusal was an act of faith, not rebellion. He wanted to fix society, not take over power. He knew the cost would be very high, but staying silent in the face of unfairness was a spiritual death he could not accept. Hussein chose to stand up, hoping to wake up the conscience of the nation. His resistance became a light for all who choose justice over unfairness. Forced to leave Medina, Imam Hussein set out with his family and a few loyal friends. In Mecca, he received thousands of letters from Kufa, begging for his leadership against Yazid. Trusting their call, Hussein headed for Kufa, aware of the dangers ahead. Upon hearing about assassins in Mecca, he left to protect the holy nature of the Kaaba, declaring that, "To be killed in the way of God is the best death." The desert journey was very hard, and soon news arrived that Kufa had fallen to Yazid's harsh rule. The supporters who had invited him were silenced. Hussein's caravan was left alone. He released his companions from their duty, but none of them left him. In the plains of Karbala, he was stopped by an army of thousands. Forced to set up camp on a barren land called Karbala, a place of sorrow and suffering. Hussein knew his destiny had arrived. Here, 72 companions would face an army, and a story of sacrifice would be written in blood. The world would witness the ultimate test of faith and loyalty. Karbala became the stage for a timeless stand against injustice. In Karbala, Yazid's armies surrounded Hussein's small camp, cutting off access to the Euphrates River. Thirst gripped the camp, especially the children, yet the loyalty of his companions only grew stronger. The night before the battle, Hussein put out the lamps and gave his companions one last chance to leave. "The enemy only wants me," he said. "I free you from your oath to me." When the lamps were lit again, not a single person had left. Their answers echoed, "Would we leave you to die alone? Never!" Among them were old men, young men, and even new Muslims, all united by their faith. Their loyalty came from the principles Hussein stood for, not from political goals. The siege of thirst failed to break them. It strengthened their legacy as a symbol of loyalty and courage. In the face of despair, their loyalty became timeless. The morning of Ashura dawned on Karbala, a day that would forever be stained with blood and sorrow. Hussein's companions fought bravely, seeking not victory, but martyrdom for their faith. One by one they fell. Old friends, family, and finally, the Banu Hashim. Ali Akbar, Hussein's son, fought valiantly before he fell. His resemblance to the Prophet was heartbreaking. Abbas, the standard-bearer, reached the river but was ambushed and fell, a symbol of sacrifice. Then came the most tragic moment, when Hussein's infant son, Ali Asghar, was martyred by an arrow as Hussein pleaded for water. Alone, wounded and grieving, Hussein entered the battlefield for his final stand. He fought with unmatched courage but was finally surrounded and martyred. Shimr delivered the final blow, beheading the grandson of the Prophet. On that plain, the Prince of Paradise was martyred, and it is said that the sky wept blood. The tragedy of Karbala was complete, but its message had just begun. Hussein's sacrifice would echo through the ages. When the sun set on the day of Ashura, Yazid's army looted and burned the camp, leaving the women and children scared. In all that mess, Zainab bint Ali stood tall and strong, gathering the people who were left and protecting her sick nephew, Ali Zain al-Abidin. Even among the ruins, Zainab's spirit stayed strong. The next day, the heads of the martyrs were put on spears, and the captives were made to walk past the bodies of their loved ones. Zainab didn't give up. She looked up at the sky and prayed, "O Lord, please accept this small sacrifice from us." This wasn't the end, but the start of a new chapter. Zainab turned her sadness into a weapon, determined to keep Hussein's story alive. She became the voice of the martyrs, telling the story of their sacrifice. The journey from Karbala to Kufa and Damascus wasn't a march of defeat, but a parade of truth. Zainab was its brave speaker, ready to face the bad guys right in their own court. The prisoner's journey ended in Damascus at the court of Yazid. There, Zainab stood up to speak without fear. Her speeches showed everyone how bad Yazid was. This turned his win into a moral defeat. The truth of Karbala spread far and wide. It caused sadness and anger all over the Muslim world. Hussein's legacy wasn't buried. It was carried on by the voices of those who survived. The heads on spears became a symbol of wrong against right. Zainab made sure that Hussein's sacrifice was just the start of his everlasting life. The message of Karbala goes beyond groups, religions, and time. It's a story for everyone about standing with dignity against unfairness. Leaders like Gandhi and thinkers like Dickens were inspired by Hussein's stand. Today, the call of Ya Hussein echoes as a call for justice and to fight against unfairness. Hussein's sacrifice was for all of humanity, making sure that as long as there is a Yazid, there will be a Hussein to challenge him. The Prophet's words ring true. Hussein is from me and I am from Hussein. Because in Hussein's sacrifice the spirit of the Prophet's message lives on.